Superintendent's reports.
Okay, so I did put under superintendent's reports an update on pandemic and virtual learning, and we are scheduled to reopen on January the 19th, 2021 after a closure that started November the 30th and got us through the Thanksgiving holidays and that 2-week surge that they had predicted. And then we have the Christmas 2-week concern about COVID numbers increasing, and then also the January 1 concern about increasing COVID numbers in our community. And of course, I believe everybody in this room and in this community understands that we are in an area that has a high number of COVID cases per 100,000, and we are extremely considered in the red. So that has driven our decision to go virtual learning. We are hoping that when we return and get closer to January 19th, we'll be in the orange or the yellow, and we can reopen schools to a hybrid model again. That's my hopes. Start out small and then consider gradually adding the entire school system back in gradually over time safely. I'd like to meet with the principals this week to talk about a plan for moving us back in. I do know the principals have been meeting very, very heavily, strongly with their teams of educators, grade level teams, to make sure that we're communicating well with our families and that we are engaging all students. We still have probably more than I'd like to admit students that aren't fully engaged with our virtual learning plan, but the principals and the staff have been reaching out wonderfully to those that are not 100% engaged with us. There also have been concerns about the number of students that are not receiving passing grades. And I know that each school is making decisions about how to improve those failing grades that we don't want to see. So a lot has happened since November the 30th and continues to happen on a daily meeting. I do think there's also some efforts to provide some individual support to some of our students who are struggling, particularly those students with disabilities. We are reaching out individually to some of them and having one-on-one Google Meets. Our paraprofessionals have been engaged to contact families and to provide more support to all students. That is being documented by our principals. So while we are not perfect, we are improving each and every day with our virtual learning efforts. And our hopes are on January 19th, 2021, that we will return to the hybrid model that we left back in November. I can't predict the future, but that's our plan for reopening. But Dr. Furman, would you like to add anything about the virtual learning and what you know about the principals and what they are doing to engage all families in the Canvas learning process?
I agree exactly with what you just said. That's what we've talked about and discussed. And the principals have done a great job involving their staff, teachers. I know they've met with department chairs, grade group chairs, and then they've also branched out and met with individual grade groups, individual departments, talked about student success or lack thereof in some situations, and possible ways to contact families, phone calls, email, home visits, whatever we need to do. And I've had some conversation with some high school folks, Ms. Dooley, Mr. Cantrell, providing extra support next semester, to try to make up some groundwork, especially for students who have not been as successful as we would like them to be. So, I think they're doing all they can do at this point and trying to make students as successful as possible under the circumstances.
Thank you, Dr. Furman. I would like to add one thing. Dr. Furman did mention that we are now totally one-to-one and that we think that we have provided every family with hotspots should they need them. But we've also been finding out that some families who did originally have Wi-Fi or internet in their homes have now been reaching out to us recently and saying that they no longer have that service. So we're in the process of securing additional hotspots for those families that may have had that, but now for whatever reason no longer have it. So we've been very, very able to meet the needs of the families in the community with providing internet access. So I applaud Dr. Furman and her staff for all those efforts to continue to secure the hotspots, as we are made aware of families that now have situations that we didn't know about before. We've also had some new students join our school system, and they have come in and they've also been given a Chromebook or a laptop, but they also need hotspots. So we're trying to secure hotspots for those new families that may need them as they move into our district. So I'm very, very pleased with what we've been able to do, and I'm just hopeful that we can get everyone back into school in January. Not everybody, but same situation we had earlier to start with.
I have a question.
Yes.
With us being virtual now, is there something to change with the IEPs, or are we doing something to make sure that their needs are met?
What we had to do, we had to amend some IEPs to say that we had switched to virtual learning. Then we also had to put in a provision in the IEPs that said that we might have to switch back to hybrid learning. But our special ed teachers are having individual conversations with families and logging their efforts to make sure that students are getting their IEP accommodations met through this virtual learning piece. It hasn't been totally easy, but they have been very, very successful in trying to meet the needs of students with IEPs in our school division. So thank you, that was a great question.
Thank you.
I did want to ask a combination of things. I was reading a December 10th article from the Virginian Pilot that was talking about 75% of Virginia parents feel fear that their students are falling behind in the pandemic, it says. And I've read other news reports from, I believe, around the country that have indicated that school divisions all across the country are seeing higher number than normal of failing and subpar grades and things. Do we have any indication as to where we are from a grade standpoint overall?
Yes, we have collected that data. I don't have it in front of me, but each principal has let Dr. Furman and myself know the number of students who are not D's and F's actually, and who we need to make sure that we have a plan of action moving forward. So we have a higher number than usual. So I'll have a presentation for you all at the January meeting of those numbers. Mrs. Morgan shared with me today that in some informational session she was in, while every grade level is going to be challenged by what's happened, but it seems like researchers and people that are experts in the field of education believe that the kindergarten and first grade students are the ones that are going to be most impacted by this virtual learning, because they haven't had the foundation to get started. So I know that Mrs. Morgan and her team will be really, really working hard on those kindergarten and first grade students who are learning to read and they are not able to do what everyone else has been doing. So we are very aware of our numbers as well.
Yeah, and I'm concerned, I guess, as a parent of two school-age children, I wonder what the domino effect will be, for them and all the kids in subsequent years, and how much adjustment we'll have to make from a curriculum standpoint to allow for that. And understanding, I think the future, regardless of what it holds for us, you're always going to have children. There's going to be a learning gap there. There is in any situation, but I fear that it may be a bit exacerbated. Well, a bit. I think it will be.
And on the opposite end of that, I agree with those kindergarten, first, second, grade levels but they have time on their side. Whereas these juniors and seniors, they don't have that time on their side. So if they regress or if they slide back, we're they're the ones most closely being prepared and us getting them ready to either go on to college, technical school, and or the workplace. That's my fear. You know, I saw just a change of losing part of one semester, how my son, it impacted my son in his freshman year of college. So that's my concern now. The longer that you have those kids in that junior, senior or group that are virtual, how it will impact them moving forward. So hopefully all the stars align and everybody follows the guidelines and everybody does things right, so that mid-January we can be back in school, and hopefully by the time the semester ends, things will change even more and we can fill the school with everybody we're able to fill it with. That would be my hope.
Mine as well, very much so. Dr.
That's everybody's prayer.
Yes, yes. Yes, I think it is. And we all know that's where our students need to be. They need to be back in our school buildings, and they need to be working with our staff when it's safe for everyone to do so. So that is our hopes.
And I know we did look at the data from our division, Ds and Fs, and looked at it for subject areas, you know, students who had more than one grade below average. And I know that's being addressed with the teachers as well as the principals, and looking at the gap. And the gaps, as we know, are across the board. They're everywhere. And, you know, I think as a teacher at each grade level, you know, it's going to be constant assessment. You know, it's going to be formative assessment daily. I mean, you're going to have to assess, you're going to have to redo, you're going to have to reteach, and unfortunately, you're going to have to pick and choose. And where can we get the biggest bang for our buck? You know, where is the biggest gap, and what gap matters? I mean, they all matter, but which one matters the most? So I think, you know, the main thing is that we're all on board, and we all know that and realize that and are aware of it. Just awareness, you know, of what is and what's not. And definitely legitimate concerns.
And Dr. Furman, I mentioned that we could give a report in January with the numbers that we know are facing our students at this point in time. And we'll have a mid-week, mid-9 weeks assessment as well to give updated information about those students that are having challenges at this point in time.